and it was just a disaster. So moving on, when I was 16, I just started rebellion against everyone, the church, my parents, anybody that tried to reach me. I turned my back on them, and I grabbed a couple friends. We went out to Montana when I was 19, worked out there for a while. We had a lot of fun. It was a great place out there. And I came back, joined the church, and I thought that would be my life. I thought my problems were all fixed, but they weren't. That's when the real struggle began. Devil told me that I'm with church now, I can't do things wrong. So that's when things went bad. I got sick. I was in a relationship and it wasn't going well. She was not very healthy as far as mentally wise either. So me and her were not great for each other. And I quit that relationship. I ended up in a mental hospital, and in a rest home. And then I went to live with my brother. And that wasn't the best idea. He helped me a little bit, but it wasn't real good because we had the same struggle. He was married, he had a family, and we couldn't help each other. It just didn't work. So I moved back home to my parents, started dating another girl, and that went south. That didn't go long. And after that, that was the end. I did not want to live anymore. I did not want to be alive. So I just started acting like it. I started making myself believe that this is the end. And I just turned my back on everything again. And then I ended up at 612, and I figured I'd do the same thing. I'd be here for 7 months, and I would just fake it. So here I am, 2.5 months in the program, and I go up to Dan, and I said, Dan, I need help. And he's like, yeah, you haven't been putting the work in. He says, you haven't even changed. He says, if you don't want to be here, pack your bags and leave. I said, yeah, that's not going to, I didn't know what to say. And yeah, he kept talking to me, and I was just taking it all in. I was like, yeah, this is really me. Like, I don't even want to be here. So he gave me a restart. And after that, I started diving into work, started diving into prayer, and prayer is amazing. I tell you guys, prayer can change your life like nothing else will. I don't know. God is amazing. And I hope that God works in you guys' life. I hope you guys are strong. Your prayer life is good because it gets very hard. And I don't have much to say. I hope that was pretty short, but I think I'm supposed to be up here for like 15 minutes. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to my life, really, there is. It's just, I don't know what else to say. So, with that, I'll close. I mean,
Thank you again, Melvin. That's awesome. All right, the next guy we're going to have up is going to be Caleb Kinkle. So give a round of applause to Caleb. Good job, man.
I'm just making sure it works. I'm Caleb Kinkle. I'm 45, originally from Mansfield, Ohio. Spent the last 3 years living in Madison, Ohio, which is right on Lake Erie. Been married for the last 3 years. Um, I say that to, um, just kind of tell you where I've been for the last 3 years. But starting out in my life, I was the last of 4 kids. I have an older brother, 2 older sisters. And from the time I can remember, I was talked at and not to. I was talked about, not in a bad way. It was all meant well, but I grew up with a learning disability, so I was always different, and I hated being different. I remember being in school and wishing I could be like other kids, and I struggled with that for a long time. And about 8 years old, I started riding horses. I found very much my identity in that. Became pretty good at it. Did that until I graduated from high school. And when I was, um, let me back up. I'm not very good at this. I'm sorry. I started attending church throughout my life with my grandma and grandpa. My uncle had a church, so I was kind of back and forth between the two. And when I was 16, I was at church camp, and that's the first time I gave my heart to the Lord, and pretty much from 16 till 19, that was my life. I went to church, I prayed, I read my Bible, I did my youth group stuff, and my life was pretty good. And when I was 19, I got this um, feeling that, my life wasn't complete unless I, was in a relationship. I didn't date much, well, there at all, pretty much, through school. So I met a woman who's my daughter's mom, and she was a polar opposite of me, and pretty much my life has been women and alcohol. And I'm gonna spare you all the boring details. I've been in and out of treatment centers. I've done more than my tours on the nut ward. It was just insanity, just back and forth, and I pretty much came to the conclusion that life was going to be my life, and I just accepted it, and I did a lot of damage to a lot of good people. Some of it was inadvertently, but some of it was very much deliberate. If I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it, and you got my way, I would do what I had to do to get what I wanted, and that pretty much meant in any means possible. If I had to lie, steal, cheat, manipulate, I would get what I wanted. The whole time I did this, I was trying to fill an emptiness inside of me that I couldn't fill, and when I would go in and out of these programs, I would come in and I would do really well, but I would still hold on to that old life because it was comfortable. It's what I was used to, and I wouldn't let things go. And I'd get out and I'd do really well for a while, and I'd build things back up just to tear it back down again. And fast forward a little bit to what got me in here. I was coming out of another program, which I was there for 3, 4 days, 5 days, something like that, and said, no, I don't need to do this. I can go back home. Convinced the wife to come back home, and I did good. I got a job. I got out. I did everything that I thought I was going to do, and made a lot of promises to myself, made a lot of promises to God that I couldn't fulfill. And it wasn't very long. When you're used to doing what you're doing, you're going to go back to doing that, unless you make changes. And I never really made changes. I would go through the motions and say all the right things, do all the right things, and justify my actions because, well, I'm working, I'm paying my bills, I'm taking care of my responsibilities, but on the inside I was dying. I was miserable. And when you live like that, you make everybody else around you miserable. No matter how much you're trying to do right or trying to do good, you're destroying the people around you. And it wasn't long before I was back into, making those compromises. Oh, I'm only gonna, look at this stuff that I shouldn't be looking at on the internet once. I'm only going to do it this time, and then before you know it, I'm right back into looking at porn and doing things that I know I shouldn't do. And the guilt and shame became so much where that was my life, was just a life of living in guilt and shame. And my wife went to visit her sister, and for some reason, and I didn't know that then, but I'm starting to realize it now, I do really well when people were around. It's when I was alone that is when the wheels would fall off for me. And what you do in the darkness manifests itself in the light, and the person I couldn't stand to be around the most was myself. So when I was alone, I had to fill that void, that emptiness of with the things that comforted me the most, and that was talking to women, being on the internet, doing things I knew I shouldn't do. And she went to visit her sister, and I was drinking out there looking on the internet for lack of better words, women of the night, and I was on my way to meet one of these women when I guess had a bit about a conscience, or maybe it was God intervening in my life, but the guilt was so overwhelming that I turned around and went back home. Well, I got more beer first because that's what I do, and I went home and I proceeded to drink again. And unbeknownst to me, the wife came home early, and needless to say, that wasn't a good situation. So, being the good runner that I am, I waited till she went to bed, got up the next morning, and I took off. And I proceeded to drink myself for the next 3 or 4 days in a motel room. And I actually found out about 612 through the Robertson's Facebook page. They had something posted on there, and I talked to Paul back in, I think, April about you know tithing into the ministry, or donating clothes or whatnot. And I remember I had a phone conversation with him back. It was around about that time, and I was at work. I worked second shift, and I got out of my truck and I was walking into work, and I didn't realize this till I got here. But that was the Lord showing me that I would be here because I needed to be here. And so let me fast forward a little bit. And so I'm laying in a hotel room. Do what I do. I drink. I watch TV with no sound, and I drank. It's a miserable existence. Um, and I went into detox, and that was I said, hey, I heard about this place called Operation 612. They know me by name. The detox center. They're really good people, and they said, okay, if this is where you want to go, we'll set it up. So they set it up. I get there. Um, the first person I met was Chase. I walked through the door. He has this silly grin on his face, and then I realized that's just Chase. So. And he sits there, doesn't say a whole lot, which I think was a blessing because we had talked my ear off. I really didn't want to hear it. So, and the guys got back from group, and that I think that first night was prayer night, and I met Dan, and Dan had a shirt on that says, "Jesus loves you, and I'm trying," and I'm like, yeah, I like that. I like that, and it just started to show me that how real he is. And Cornell and Paul, just they don't come at you from you know a they don't lord over you, they don't rule over you, they allow you to just be you, and you know have your relationship with Christ. And I needed that. So many times I was in programs that you know they crammed the Bible so far down your throat, when you got out you didn't really want to touch it again, because it wasn't used in a way that was edifying. It was used as a way to manipulate and control, and condemn you. And I really like that. And as I started to go through the program, I started to realize, by the help of some people in here, that this is where I needed to be, because I was at Paul's Pond, and it was 4th of July, and I was mad at myself because my family puts on a big 4th of July celebration, and I wasn't going to be there. And I was standing at the pond by myself, and for some reason, I started talking to Miriam, because she's got this cat on a leash, and it still blows my mind how you can leash train a cat. And if you ever have a conversation with Miriam, it's not going to be a short conversation. So, I started talking to her about the cat, and somehow she got talking about me and why I'm here, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be a quick conversation. But but you know, as I was talking to her, I told her I didn't fit in, and she does this little look. She's laying on the ground, does this little look, and she's like, "Look around. None of these people fit in either. That's why they're here." And that really it helped me in many ways because she was right, and it also helped me that I can learn things from anybody. You know, I can't stand up here and say, "Oh, I'm 45. You're, you know, the same age as my daughter. I can't listen to you," because that's exactly what I needed to hear. Um, and she was right. And that's when I really started to accept where I was and that I needed to be here. And you know, we started in a group and we had to look at ourselves. We had to look at our roles in childhood, and then we had to look at our attachment styles and all this stuff. And you know, it was hard for me because I've been in so many programs where I know the answers, and dang it, I didn't know these answers, and it was pissing me off. You know, but that was good because then I learned to listen, and as I listened, I was learning, and I started to see myself, and I realized that that wasn't my fault. It wasn't my parents' fault. That was just the way it was, and I was okay with that. I was able to say to look at myself and say, okay, I see, you know what this is now. Now, what do I need to do to change it? You know what do I need to do different? And I started looking at that, and there was a lot of things I had to surrender, and that's where my growth came is when I just started surrendering this stuff. And the first thing I had to do is surrender my marriage, surrender my wife. You know, Paul pointed it out to me the other day that I'm 100% responsible for my marriage, and he's right. And you know, I had all these plans and ideas of what I was gonna do when I was here. I had a friend that I really shouldn't have had that was gonna hold on to my stuff and was gonna keep in contact with me, and I had to surrender that, and I had to remove that person from my life. And that was the first time I've ever been anywhere, not only in a program, but just anywhere in general, that I didn't have that person that I thought needed to validate me and, you know, be there to, you know, quote support me. I realized that real quick. I have everything I need and a few things that I want in this program, you know. Um, and every time I thought about, you know, oh, I need this, I got it, you know. And that really helped me stay, you know, focused on what I need to do. I get sideways sometimes. I do get in my head. I think it was last week. I was ready to leave. I had all these brilliant plans, and I called my dad, and he put it in perspective for me. He goes, "No, you need to stay and complete, because if you leave, all you're doing is repeating the same pattern you did before." And you know, and my reason for leaving was stupid. It was because, you know, oh, I want to get out and get a job for the holidays. But I know if I would do that and not stay and complete, I could be there for the holidays, but I wouldn't be there. I would be still the same miserable person I've always been, because I didn't like the things I was doing and who I was. And you know, I don't know if any of you all have experienced that, but it's pretty lonely existence when you can be in a crowd of people or even around family and you still feel like you're the only person in the room. That's how I spent most of my life, you know. And you know, I started to realize one day that I got this thing called a smile on my face, and you know, it may not be the prettiest smile, but it's mine, and I like it. And you know, I'm not all the time the happiest guy in the world, but I try to encourage other people. I'm not perfect at it, but you know, I try to lift up the people around me because that's what they do for me. You know, Adam here was one that really helped me. I want to share this part because I forgot about it. when I first, I think it was like my first or second day in group, Cornell and her amazing way of dragging things out of people had us break up into groups. And, you know, I did not want to talk. I did not want to share. And it happened to be Adam and Miriam in my group, and I can't remember who else was there. Miko was in. Anyways, make a long story longer, we were talking about our greatest regret, and all four of us had the same thing that we regretted, and that was the first time I ever shared that regret, and how freeing that was, and to share it and have two guys shake their head and say, "Yeah, I've been there. I've done the same thing," you know, and it was like, wow, you know, I held on to this for what, you know, and that was really kind of the turning point on this whole vulnerability thing. When I first got here, they were like, "Oh, you do group therapy and you got to sit on this hot seat and talk." I was like, "Nope, I do one-on-ones. That's what I do. I ain't doing this." But the more I seen other guys share and the feedback, and the women too, and I started seeing changes in people. And one of the people I've seen that was on the hot seat before I got there was Melvin, and I started to see how much he changed and the things he shared about, and it was like, man, it was like, well, if he can do it, I know I can. And I started to draw and learn from other people that I didn't think I could learn from, and that's been, you know, a really beautiful experience for me. And it's really, for me, it's really freeing because I don't know what the next step is. I'm here, and I'll be here until, you know, God tells me what the next step is. That doesn't mean I want to be in the program for 14 months. But, you know, that's just where I'm at. I don't have any plans, you know, this is what I'm doing after I graduate or anything. And it's nice. I have peace about that. And I don't need to know, you know, because if I know, I'm going to get in there, I'm going to play God, and I'm going to screw it up. So, and I know that. That's just I'm going to, okay, well, he wants me to go this direction. Well, I'm going to do this and this instead. And, you know, I don't really like this direction, so I'm going to go over here. And then, you know, it's a big, you know, mess. And, you know, that's what I do. So, but that's pretty much all I got. Kind of starting to ramble. I don't like doing this. So, that's all I got. Thank you.
Hello? There we go. Down a little bit. Got it now? All right, good. That was his fault. Anyways, thank you, Caleb, for sharing. Before we call up our last person, I just kind of want to sit and reflect on what these people are actually really doing up here. Because it not only takes tremendous courage to come up here and share their testimony, to get vulnerable, but God calls us to do this. And this is like a test right here. Not a test, but training almost. To get up and share in front of people that you've started to be able to get to know. There's a few new faces out there, but ultimately we do know everybody here. But God calls us to do this outside of here. There is somebody out there in this big world, there's one person maybe, even if it's just one person, that needs to hear your story. And it takes courage to be able to share that story, no matter what it has to do with, because we all have dark pasts. Whether it's, you know, sexual sins, whether it's drug abuse, whether it's depression, whatever it is, somebody out there is going through the same thing right now and is thinking to themselves, I can't get through this. There's no hope for me. I know because I've been there. So it's our duty to be able to get out there to this world, and if it's laid on your heart that the Holy Spirit's saying, hey, that person right there needs to hear what you have to say, to be able to go up and do that. So this is really great to be able to do this here, to get that training, to be able to do this here. And with that said, we'll call up the last person, Alta Bontrager, if you'd like to come up and share yours.
Okay, so my name is Alta Bontrager. I was raised Amish, um, and I am 19 years old. Um, I don't really remember the first couple years of my life, but I was born into a family of 10 kids. I was born in the middle. I was a middle child. Um, at the age of around 8 or 9, I got sexually molested by my oldest brother. Um, I don't remember like the time wise, like the length of the time. Um, and I'm not going to go into detail tonight, but um, that caused a lot of depression, loneliness, feelings of being different from other girls, um, caused a lot of anxiety. Um, teen years, I kind of felt my depression coming on probably around the age of 12 or 13. If we'd come together, family gatherings and stuff, I'd just hang out by myself. I'd find myself a little corner, or I'd go to either the basement or the upstairs and would just hang out. I, yeah, I struggled a lot with depression and just um, not feeling worth it, not being myself basically. Um, at the age of 16, my single aunt died. That was tremendously hard for me. She died of what we believe was a heart attack. It was very sudden. Um, she was my favorite aunt. She worked at my dad's shop, and I have a lot of sweet memories from her. Um, she was famous for her waffles. Um, Almost every Christmas, we'd come together, my dad's side. Um, she'd make us waffles. We'd have all the fixings. Um, and yeah, so at her funeral and everything, I did not allow myself to cry. I was, even from just a little girl, I was taught you don't cry in public. Um, it's shameful to cry in public, and so like I still believe that lie, and I still believe it sometimes now, and I'm working on that. But anyway, um, so I did not allow myself to cry. It, I was just numb. Um, this happened in December, and then the next February, I got down to my lowest point. It was just I remember that one weekend I was at my friend's house and she just kept asking me like, what's wrong? Is it something I did? Is it something I said that's making you feel so sad and whatever? And I was just like, at the time I didn't know what I was experiencing, and I just told her that no, I'm just extra tired, I just need some sleep. Um, but then Monday afternoon, I was upstairs in my room and I came to the realization that what I was experiencing was depression. And then I just got depressed because I was depressed. Um, and it was, yeah, I was thinking about a plan. I was very, very low. And yeah, it was very dark. Um, we have kind of like an overgrown swamp in our back of our property, and I was thinking maybe I could just run out back there and just hide out or whatever, or else I could run away and starve, do whatever. At that point, like, I have heard many stories of young girls getting kidnapped and stuff, and at that point I just literally didn't care anymore. I was like, whatever happens, happens. I'd just rather not be here. Um, well, thanks to God, my sister knocked on the door. I was in my bedroom. My sister knocked on the door. She wanted to leave a note for my other sister that I shared a room with. If it had not been for her, it's hard telling where I would be here. I mean, right now, I would probably not be here now. And she wanted to leave a note for my sister. She saw the state I was in. I was crying. I tried reading the Bible, but it just wasn't working. And she came in and she asked if I want to talk to someone, and I said, I don't care. So she went downstairs and got Mom. Mom came upstairs. We talked for a while, and I told her that I wanted to go get help. And the first thing she said to me, I still carry bitterness with this, but she said, so, like, just a little explanation. When you're Amish and you want to join church, you have to take 9 classes, and on the 9th one, you get baptized. And so she said, what about taking instruction classes this summer? And I was like, I didn't say it, but I was like, yeah, what about that? Like, if I can get help, what does it matter? Like, whatever. I'd rather get help and then take instruction classes and get baptized. But, like, anyway, so nothing really happened after that. I did feel better. I went downstairs and I had dinner with the family and kind of went back and forth. Throughout that summer, I did take the instruction classes. I did get baptized. It wasn't for the right reason, but I did it mostly just to please my family, honor my aunt, and to please the church, please my friends. People pleaser, definitely. And yeah, that summer was just a blur of ups and downs. Then that fall sometime, I think it was in November sometime that me, Mom, and Dad had a talk, and they asked me if I wanted to go get help somewhere, and I was like, yes. Like, wow, you finally noticed. And then I was like, yes, I want to go get help. And so they set up, Dad called Woodside Rest. It's a place in Dundee, here in Ohio. It's run by the Amish. He called that place and he said that, yeah, they have an empty space for the end of January of 2022. And I was like, okay, I think I can wait that long. And then the thing came up about whether or not I would take my brother to court or not. So this Woodside Rest was a rehab. It was only run by the Amish, but it was a little different. And at that time, I was only 17, and I wanted to just go and get help, but my dad took control of the situation and said that no, I have to wait till I'm 18 so that my brother basically doesn't have to go to jail. And so I was like, oh, well, whatever. I mean, not whatever, but whatever. And so I had to wait till the end of April till I actually got in. Was there for 16 weeks. I learned a lot, but it was a lot of things that they teach here at 612, but they don't go nearly as deep. Like, it's just, they're just scratching the surface. And yeah, like, living there, the first 5 weeks or so was like vacation because I was out of the house, I was away from my family. Um, it was vacation. But after that, it just went downward. And like by the end of my stay, I was so ready to get out. Um, it was like prison. There were so many rules. They were so strict. Um, Literally, like a very silly rule, just to give you an idea, was you couldn't be in the house barefoot, which is really ridiculous in my mind. But no, I'm serious. But like just things like that, it was just crazy. Like you weren't allowed any sharp objects, any glass objects. There were cameras in every tiny corner you could imagine. Um, and it was, yeah, it was just silly. Anyway, um, they didn't have Bible studies like they do here. Um, yeah, it was just crazy. Anyway, um, so at the end of my stay, they did a personality test and kind of diagnosed me with narcissism. And they didn't want to keep me anymore, but my dad wanted them to keep me because, yeah, my parents didn't have an idea how to deal with this, but they just sent me home because they didn't know what else to do with me. So I went home, and about a week and a half after I got home, I was like, I wish I would have never gone because I just felt so much worse than I ever did before. And well, before I could, they called it discharge. Before I could get discharged from there, I had to have a support group. And yeah, so back to being home for about a week and a half from that place, I was like, I gotta get out. I cannot do this anymore. I'm getting back down. I'm feeling so bad. I can't do this. And so I called the single lady that's on my support group. She lives alone in a house, and I just thought maybe I could move in down into her basement. It's just like a furnished basement and has everything. And I just thought that, maybe I could move in with her for however long it takes for me to find another house or another place to stay. And I called her. I was so desperate that I called her work. And she said that she'll have to have some time to think about this. And so what happened is my support group and my parents got together, excluding me, and they came up with the idea that no, you can't leave the house. You have to be there. You have to create peace among your family. And after you've got that peace, you can move out if you still want to. And I was like, wow, like, no, I ain't never gonna get that peace with my family. Like, it's just not gonna happen. But I didn't know what else I would do, so I just stayed and endured it and just made the best out of it. And yeah. Then last year, around, what was it, maybe, I can't remember the exact month, but sometime last year, I made the comment that I actually do need to get some more help. And no, it was this year. It was in the first part of March, I think. Anyway. And I was like, I had a meeting with my mom and dad, and I said, hey, I need some more help. I don't know how to function anymore. And so dad suggested 612. We heard about 612 because my uncle and my cousin went through the men's program a couple years ago. So that's how we heard about 612. And I was kind of reluctant because I heard it's like a long-term thing, and um, I really didn't want to be away from my friends for so long. Um, but I was like, either now or never. And so I came in, and it wasn't, it was not even near what I had expected. Like, literally, my first step into the front door, there were people walking around everywhere in the kitchen. It was chaos. There were dogs, and then there was a cat, and and people, I mean, the girls were walking around barefoot. And I was like, wow. It was a wow moment for me. Oh, yeah. The first week was kind of like a daze. My second week was harder than my first week. Everybody said, yeah, your first week is going to be very hard. And it was like, for me, my first week wasn't that hard. It was harder the second week. I remember, like, my brother, just younger than me, he had his driver's permit, wasn't yet 18, so he didn't have his driver's license. And I was like, man, I wish he had his license so he could come out here and get me. Because I was like, I'm so done. I'm so done. But I thank God that he didn't have his driver's license, because where would I be if, you know? And so I stayed and was back and forth. Drama popped up, and I was like, oh man, what did I get myself into now? And and I was like, I know my parents won't allow me to come back home, but I don't really want to stay here. um, yeah, I was right in the fence, whether I want to stay or whether I want to leave. But it took me, it was like a little before 4 months that I shared my testimony with the group at the Baltic Church. But it wasn't until after that, till I finally decided that I really do want healing and I want to be here 100%. So I jumped the fence and I stayed, and I'm glad I stayed. Um, and yeah, I just want to encourage all of you who are new. It will get better. There are better days ahead. And yeah, this too shall pass, you know. Um, Jesus will take care of you. He loves you. He loves you more than any of us could love you. And yeah, it's just, God has worked just so many beautiful things in my heart. Just so many beautiful things. Like, I couldn't even put it into words the way he has worked in my heart. But yeah, I think that's all. And I just want to thank you guys for being here for me.
Thank you, Alta. So I just want to kind of share a little bit. You know, it's a blessing to be here in this program after you've been here a little bit. You start seeing people come in, and you see the looks on their face, and even in their eyes. You can just kind of tell, not just kind of, there's an aha moment that they get it, and their face starts changing, their eyes light up, and it's such a blessing to be able to see that and be a part of that. I can see it in you three that just shared. It's amazing the work that God's been doing in your guys' life. It's really inspirational for the people that have coming in. With that said, we're going to do a little bit of worship now. We're kind of doing things a little backwards today. Wholehearted is going to come up and sing.
to do Be Thou My Vision first, and you guys please feel free to sing along. Be thou my